Welcome to Dan's On Site with Dan Dutton and Dan Goley, a podcast and YouTube show dedicated to all things real estate, delivering market information, interviews from all perspectives, and tips for everyone involved in or interested in real estate. We'd love to hear from you. Dan's at dansonsite.com. Welcome to Dan's On Site. Take a moment, like our videos, throw us a review, subscribe. We really appreciate it. We've actually been getting, our views been going up. A lot of you guys watching, listening every week. We can't tell you how thankful we are for that.
Yeah, we kind of went over all of our numbers on our individual LinkedIn accounts, our Dan's On Site accounts. The Facebook group is growing, so we really appreciate it. We're getting a lot of good feedback and stuff, which is important because we want to know what you want to hear. You know, while we're the host of the show, it's important for us to have the guests really provide, some good content. So we really appreciate all that.
Yeah, like we've said a bunch of times at this point, we want to build a community. We want this to be a community for everybody to partake in. Dan brought up the Facebook group, Real Estate On Site on Facebook. Go check it out. The group is growing every day. More and more people getting involved in conversations. We're just talking about real estate stuff, trying to be supportive of each other. Hopefully it grows into something more. So check us out there. Of course, find all our old episodes at dansonsite.com and anywhere you get podcasts, YouTubes, all that kind of stuff. So let's talk about, that's enough about you and me because they don't care. But let's talk about our road trip this week. We took a road trip.
Road trip was great. We probably do it regularly, well, semi-regularly now because of COVID, to Des Moines. And the landing spot is typically at West Glen. We have a great partnership with Michael Shindler over there with Ferguson Commercial Real Estate. So, things are going well. It's a partnership that's really worked well for us. The ownership is certainly in Omaha and Chicago, and with him over being in Des Moines, while everyone's been talking about a downturn, there's certainly activity.
Yeah, West Glen has seen crazy amount of activity during COVID.
Yeah.
And Shindler has been a great partner for us over there. So we're going to jump right into the interview with Shindler. We figured you guys have heard a lot about what's going on in Omaha. It's about time we jump outside Omaha and talk about what's happening in other communities. So Shindler's our first opportunity. He gives us a rundown of what's happening in Des Moines. And we have a repeat guest on the show.
You'll be hearing about him soon.
Yeah, so join us for Michael Shindler, and then right after that is our second time guest who will be coming on to make an announcement. We'll check in with you guys after the interviews. Thank you. So we're here in Des Moines today. We're joined by Michael Shindler of Ferguson Commercial Real Estate. Thank you very much for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for having me, guys. Ferguson Commercial Real Estate, like you said. We actually on site here at West Glen. We represent the property here along with a handful of other major retail centers in the Des Moines market. Des Moines is a smaller market, but still sees a lot of no longer flyover state. We've seen a lot of different activity come through here and a lot of new brands come through. Obviously, during this COVID environment, it's been a challenge for some people, but it's just adapting and figuring out the next things to come.
So give us kind of a just general overview of the commercial real estate market in Des Moines. Retail, office, industrial, 30,000 foot view.
Absolutely. Office, just in general, across the board, has been a little slower. It's everyone figuring out what the next steps as far as COVID. A lot of guys are not trying to be short-sighted with it and downsize immediately. We've actually seen a little bit of different side of it. A couple guys have shown some growth because they do want to space out a little further and give that opportunity. And then if things return to normal, they'll be able to expand their company base and employee base.
So have you seen major corporations still on lockdown? Do they have planned lockdown to the end of the year? Is there
like Wells Fargo has a huge campus out here. What are they doing?
So Wells Fargo's doing a little split method. They'll send most of their surface level employees in. They're going in on a daily basis, but their supervisors, those type of people that are organizing and controlling, if you will, the office environment, they're going in once or twice a week. So they're cutting down their employees from that standpoint of Wells Fargo, at least from what I've seen. I know that Nationwide is a major one that's downtown. They're completely vacated their building with talks of potentially not even going back there.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That was released. But again, we all don't have that crystal ball. If we
It's
did,
tough.
we'd
It's tough
figure
to
it out,
know,
so.
right? And we're seeing the same thing in Omaha too. The bigger companies, maybe the national companies, haven't quite decided what
Yep.
they're going to do yet. A lot of people are still working at home. The smaller companies, they got to get back to work, I think, to a certain degree. So they're kind of forcing employees to come back.
Info Group is shut down in Omaha, and I don't think they're going to reopen.
Yeah.
It's just everybody's across the board.
Yep.
So what? How about new businesses? I know in the retail sector in Omaha, we are seeing some new guys to town, some new businesses. People are maybe well capitalized who can take advantage of the current market. What's going on with anything new, cool coming to Des Moines?
The typical suspects of the retail, the franchisees. We've had a couple that signed some deals during this period. Obviously, it hit a slow period because, again, watching the market to see what's going to happen. But one of them is Capriati's, which is a restaurant sandwich place, and they seem to do good business and have no fear of their environment. But theirs is different compared to a sit-down type restaurant where those are where most of the effects have been seen. I think majority of the retailers have bounced back pretty strong outside of those sit-down restaurant concepts. So,
A lot of restaurants now, if they're doing new locations, requiring drive-throughs. That
Correct.
seems to be a big deal now.
Yep. My client who I represent here is Smoothie King. They actually did very well during the pandemic because they have that drive-through. It was one of the few things that were open. So again, it's that adapt or be left behind, and I think everyone's looking at how do we adapt in this scenario. Office doesn't know, but I think retailers can point and go, we can figure this out and do what we need to do.
How about the industrial sector? Has anything been impacted over here by it?
We've actually seen a little bit of growth in that standpoint. You got the Amazons of the world, you got those type of users that are expanding because they need the inventory. They need to be able to get a hub and get their items out to a quicker, what they're supposed to be 2 day. We've now seen different flexes that are going on, but those type of users, we're selling an industrial building on the east side of Des Moines right now. That's a 25,000 square foot building. We had 6 offers within the first week.
That's
Really?
wild.
Sales have really dipped a little bit in Omaha.
Have they?
Yeah.
I think it's the buyers and sellers having a hard time coming together because there's all these buyers who think, wow, there should only be deals in the marketplace, and sellers going, why would I sell for any less than I would have 6 months ago?
Yeah. Again, it's trying to help the client and without putting it in a rude term, but short-sighted, just focus on the bigger picture of where you guys are heading and what you're trying to do versus what everyone else is doing, what the market's reflecting from a standpoint of are clients coming in, are they going out, or do we need the employees we need now? Let's focus on what you've been doing and regroup if we need to at a different period if this doesn't get better anytime soon.
So today we're at West Glen, basically I-35 and Mill Civic Road, or Parkway. You and I have worked on and Goalie. I should give Goalie full credit.
That's fine. I'll just sit over here. Don't worry about it.
But we've worked with you on this property, I guess, kind of off and on now for like 6 or 7 years, probably going on that
Quite a
long.
bit of time, yeah.
You seem like a young pup back when I first met you.
That's some tire marks now. So.
Yeah, well, used and abused, we all are, that's for sure. But tell people, so a lot of people watching this are probably in Omaha. We do get some Iowa people watching, but just tell everybody a little bit about West Glen.
Yeah, absolutely. West Glen is a major power center here. You got apartments, and you can probably talk on that further than I can, but 400 plus apartments. Their occupancy was above 90% for a very long time, and I think it still is.
Sure is, yeah.
And it's fantastic from that work, play, stay, lifestyle type center. All the environment here, there's a few vacancies that were here, but we got a restaurant deal done. That was a 5,000 square foot restaurant deal. We had a vacancy that had many birthdays that now is filled in a 12,000 square foot expanding office user. There's a couple that have gone out, but we've had plenty of activity. This area continues to grow, and it will, I think, be a staple for always. I mean, it's just an easy area to get to, and people like coming here.
I gotta say, if you haven't been to West Glen, take a moment, come over, maybe after COVID, but there's a ton of great restaurants here, entertainment. It's really a great center all the way around. So Michael, thank you very much for coming on the show with us today. Tell people out there how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go on our website, FergusonCommercialRealEstate.com, and it's, that's the easiest way to find any information. We have our cell phones on there, emails, or you can just call on the cell. It's 515-720-3492. We're accessible all the time. Dan's will tell you that. You call us up. So.
Well, if you guys are coming to Des Moines and you need a commercial broker, there's no way better than Michael. So thank you very much. So welcome back to Dan's On Site. We are still here in Des Moines, and Tom Baldwin again. You are, I think congratulations are in order, first ever two-time guest at Dan's On Site.
I love it. We appreciate the support.
Thanks. You guys are great guys.
Tom begged us to be on. We were like, well, we need guests, so please come on. It worked out perfectly. So we are on the rooftop of Wellman's today. Tell us a little bit about Wellman's.
Well, Wellman's is I'd call it an upscale sports bar with a rooftop. We built this in 2010, just after the real estate crash of 08, 09. We had it underway going there. We bought a original Wellman's on Ingersoll. Didn't own the property. We were just a little kind of a neighborhood sports bar, and had that for 3 years, and decided we needed one on this side of town. And this is an entertainment area. We're right across the street from West Glen in West Des Moines, Iowa, and just got a little adventurous and decided to build a big one. So it's got a little bit of neighborhood sports bar mixed with an entertainment area, just kind of combined. And so far, it's been pretty well.
And Tom just treated us to lunch, which was fantastic. Patio
Very good lunch.
Seemed pretty popular. It's a gorgeous day out. So the first time I actually been on the roof, but this is a great view up here.
Yeah, you can see downtown over there to the left. You can see the principal tower and the tops of that. You can see all of West Glen. It's a great view at night too. It's all lit up across the street.
So goalie, we heard a rumor that maybe Tom maybe wants to make an announcement why he's on the show today.
The floor is yours.
Thanks. Well, we have a restaurant across the street that we're about ready to open in the next month or so, called Anna Dolce. It's an Italian restaurant. We've partnered with some really cool guys that have a lot of background in restaurants, Italian, and it's going to be upscale, contemporary. It's going to be down home at the same time. We're mixing the two concepts together, and it should be fairly trendy.
So how does one, I mean, you had Blue Toro in there, which was a surviving concept. How does one go about deciding, I mean, the Captain Obvious answer is because I think this was going to be better, but how did you go about determining whether or not Italian was right?
Well, we had wanted to open an Italian restaurant for a number of years recently, and there had been some closings. Bravo closed, another Italian restaurant closed. There was a lack of Italian presence on this side of town, and everybody loves Italian food. And
Fairly obvious.
Yeah, I think so. I think we all can
Well,
test
Back to the
Food
Captain
is-
Obvious.
Nothing like some good pasta and red sauce. And we had a Mexican restaurant that was doing fairly well. We were making a little bit of money, but it wasn't really, making anybody rich. And I thought, you know what? I bet Italian will knock it out of the park. So, we had the COVID come, and that was a perfect time that somebody makes a decision like that, a life-altering decision in the restaurant business. So we made the decision. We're gung-ho. We partnered, like I said, with these guys, Tony Lemo, Josh Holderness, and Joe McConville, and we should have this open in early to mid-October. And so far, the tastings have been great. The food's going to be fantastic.
Well, I think that's super exciting, and I think if COVID's teaching us anything, when you look at successful businesses, it's those businesses that are able to pivot what they're doing, seem to carry on the success. So it seems to me that as a smart businessman, you're just able to pivot, move on to a new concept, and that's something a lot of businesses really seem to lack, don't you think?
Well, my view, like a lot of people, is, if you're not going forward, you're going backwards. And you've got to identify the right time to make changes. If you don't, then you kind of run the risk of getting consumed by could be problems or people that pass you by, competitors, or just the nature of the business and how it changes. I mean, there's a lot of changes coming out of COVID. There's a lot of habits that are being changed, and you got to stay up with it. You got to move forward. You can never really stand still.
Any other exciting announcements you want to make today?
That'll be the third podcast.
Oh yeah, that'll be number 3. We're gonna have to get you. Do we have to start paying you to come on pretty soon? Probably.
You might have to. I might switch this iced tea out for a brewski later.
Well, Tom, as always, thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
And I can say for Dan and I, we're very excited about the Italian concept, opening it up and joining everything else you're doing over here.
I appreciate it. Thanks again, and congratulations on the success of your podcast.
Hey, welcome back. We hope you enjoyed the interviews with Mike Shindler. And then obviously, the guy wouldn't leave us alone. He had to get on a second time. Actually, just joke about that. We love Tom Baldwin. Tom's invited on anytime. It actually is pretty cool because we're on the rooftop of Wellman's, his bar in West Des Moines. That's a really cool scene up there.
If we're in Des Moines 10 times, we probably go to Wellman's 11 times. We're there a lot. This is the first time we really spent some time up on the rooftop, which is kind of neat. And it's a great view. You can see all the way down a couple buildings sticking out, the rooftops of the trees, and you can see downtown Des Moines. So it's a pretty cool sight. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a cool bar.
And then Tom talking about his big announcement, the Italian restaurant coming. That was neat of him to say that on the show. And, that's Tom is, I'll give Tom credit because he's forward thinking. When he has a concept that he says, it's maybe just not doing what I hoped it would do. Yeah, sure, it's surviving, maybe making a little bit of money, but I know I have a space I can do more with. This guy, he's not afraid to cut bait and just say, I'm going to switch over and go to a new concept.
Well, there was when we asked the question of him, of why and how and what is his thinking, he saw a pocket of, a void in the market, if you will, of good Italian food. And so I know we've talked about this with him for a while now, but he actually sat down, found a good, chef and had some great tastings and stuff, as he mentioned. And, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to miss the old concept, but certainly he knows better than us with the new Italians.
Well, it does seem like he's put in quite a bit of research into knowing actually, he's been talking about Italian concept over there for
a long time.
4 or 5 years probably.
Right.
So good for him. Our first interview, Michael Shindler, as we said, this was one of those things where it was time we got out of maybe Omaha and Lincoln, got to another community, especially as much time as Dan and I spend in Des Moines on a regular basis. I think before COVID, I was probably over there, at least 2 times a month, if not 3 or 4 times a month. And so we spent a lot of time in Des Moines. So it was good to bring on Michael Shindler and really talk about the activity in Des Moines. We talked a little bit before we got into the interviews about just so much activity there's been at West Glen, which is a property you and I do a lot of work on. But really, it sounds like overall Des Moines is doing really well.
Well, Des Moines and Omaha are compared in a lot of ways to be in the same market, kind of sister markets, if you will. If we have a national that's coming in of any product type that wants to look in Des Moines, most likely they're looking at Omaha and vice versa. And so we've seen that a lot. It's allowed us to become more familiar with it. And then Shindler comes in and really kind of explains all product types and goes through it all, kind of where he sees it. If you haven't spent much time in Des Moines, you should go look at it. It's kind of been on the same growth pattern as Des Moines, or as Omaha, and so, he really provided a lot of good insight.
Well, Des Moines is a neat city. I've always thought Des Moines is a neat city. It's different from Omaha in several ways, but it's really the same story when we talk about the commercial real estate. Retail is what it is. Obviously, we're seeing more bankruptcies, but we're also seeing growth from some tenants in the retail market. Industrial obviously is this beast that just can't be slowed down at the moment. And then office, who knows with office?
Yeah,
It's the same story, I think, everywhere. Although it's exciting to see companies like Amazon say, no, we're going to get employees back to the office. We're going to grow our office footprint. So that's exciting, although not necessarily in Omaha or Des Moines. But we appreciate you guys being joining us today. As always, find us on Apple Podcasts Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, anywhere you find podcasts, YouTube. Do us a favor, like our shows, subscribe. We appreciate all that. Don't forget about the Facebook group, Real Estate On Site. Find us there as well. As always, Dan Goley, I'm Dan Dutton. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again for joining us. Find us on Facebook, at YouTube, Dan's On Site. All your favorite podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. We would love it if you hit the subscribe button and also leave us a review. Reach us at dansonsite.com.